we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Books that I'm reading right now, among many others I'm reading, but these are probably the main 4. And my camera is propped up against the next fiction book that I'll be reading once I finish one of the books that I'm about to show you. And it's a library book. All of these books I have either bought or procured from an independent bookstore. So let me share with you these 4 books. 2 of them are hardcover and 2 of them are paperback. 3 of them are published. 1 of them is not yet published. All right. The first book, hardcover, published in 2024. It's an edited anthology by Kwame Alexander, and it's called This Is the Honey, an anthology of contemporary Black poets. And the cover is different shades of greens, yellows, oranges, pinks, and purples. And this is what the binding looks like. Kwame Alexander, This Is the Honey. And the publisher of this thick hardcover book is Little Brown. Little Brown. Little Brown. And the back, This Is the Honey, has blurbs of praise by various people, as well as praise for the editor, Kwame Alexander. That was a loud motorcycle. And I'm using the inside flap to hold my spot in as a bookmark. So this is how far I've gotten. There are over 200 poems in this anthology. And what I love about this anthology is, as the inside front cover says, a breathtaking new poetry collection on hope, heart, and heritage from the most prominent and promising Black poets and writers of our time, edited by Why Fathers Cry at Night, author and #1 New York Times bestseller, Kwame Alexander. In this comprehensive and vibrant poetry anthology, best-selling author and poet Kwame Alexander curates a collection of contemporary anthems at turns tender and piercing and deeply inspiring throughout, featuring work from well-loved poets such as Rita Dove, Jericho Brown, Warsan Shire, Ross Gay, Tracy K. Smith, Terrence Hayes, Morgan Parker, and Nikki Giovanni. This Is the Honey is a rich and abundant offering of language from the poets giving voice to generations of resilient joy. Each incantation, as Mahogany L. Browne puts it in her titular poem, is, quote, a jubilee of a people dreaming wildly, end quote. And so far, the most impactful poem is the first poem. Not that I'm very far. It's in this section called The Language of Joy. And it's the poem Quilting the Black-Eyed Pea, We're Going to Mars by Nikki Giovanni. If you are not familiar with this poem by Nikki Giovanni, I highly recommend you read this poem. In the book, hold on, I can't count. Let's count together. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages long. 5 pages long. I've been reading about 2, maybe 3 poems a day. One usually in the morning, one at night. Sometimes 2 in the morning, sometimes 2 at night, sometimes 1 during the day. This is The Honey by Kwame Alexander. This one I procured from an indie bookstore. It was a damaged book, so I got it for free. It got rained on. And now, the second book. Another thick hardcover, published in 2024. Survival is a Promise. The Eternal Life of Audre Lorde by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. And this is a portrait of Audre Lorde with a little flower in her hair. And this is the favorite portrait of Audre Lorde by the biographer Alexis Pauline Gumbs. If you are not familiar with Alexis Pauline Gumbs, highly recommend you read her work. This is her. She also wrote the book Undrowned: Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals, published by AK Press. Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who is Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs, wrote this because she has studied Audre Lorde's life and work. And this is what the binding looks like. And this book was published by FSG. Let's find out what FSG is, or who they are. Farrar, Straus and Giroux. I found out, well, I've known about this book, but I recently listened to a podcast episode of Alexis Pauline Gumbs being interviewed by Prentice Hemphill on Prentice's podcast, Becoming the People. It was such a wonderful podcast episode, and it made me even more excited about this book. And once again, I'm using the front cover of the hardcover book as a page holder. I just started reading this the other day, so I'm only on page 28 out of over 400. This will take me some time to read through. The paperback version of this book just came out, and it's a different cover. And I think the reason is because I got this book also at an indie bookstore, and it's called A Remainder, which means it was a book that unfortunately didn't sell as well as the publisher had hoped. And so they were liquidating their stock. And so instead of being sold for the MSRP of $35 US, I got this book for about $11, which is incredible. And a lot of my friends, 4 of my friends, also bought 4 other copies at that price. So, Survival is a Promise. If you have an independent bookstore, ideally a Black or brown owned or queer owned or radical independent bookstore, I encourage you to go and buy a copy of this book and ask if they have a remainders section, and you might find this copy. All right, Survival is a Promise. This is a biography that I'm reading. Let's read a little bit about it. We remember Audre Lorde as an iconic writer and a quotable teacher whose words and face grates t-shirts, nonprofits' annual reports, and campus diversity center walls. But even those who are inspired by Lorde's teachings on, quote, the creative power of difference, unquote, may be missing something fundamental about her life and work and what they can mean for us today. And what's wonderful about this is, just like Alexis's work and Audre's work, the biography is not written linearly. It's written poetically and with prose. Alexis also is in relationship with Audre's lover and interviewed her daughter. So this is a wonderful and very meaningful book. All right, Survival is a Promise. Okay, book number 3. We'll start with this one. This is another nonfiction, and this is a book that I bought when the University of Nebraska had its biannual, I believe is the right term, 40% or 50% off sale. It happens twice a year, once around the winter holiday season, and also I realized recently in the spring and summer season. Check out book publishers' websites directly, and you can see when they have their sales. A lot of them have 40 or 50%